Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So here I am with my cards. I'm doing it a little differently. I'm gonna mix it like this. I was just prompted to do it this way, and the reason being though is I remember being a kid and I loved playing with cards, and sometimes I would do it like this, sometimes I wouldn't, sometimes I would mix and I would ask people to look, and sometimes I would just sort of kind of mess it about, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 5 cards today for the sun entering Gemini tomorrow, okay? How do you guys feel with Mars and Venus moving into new signs today? And it was yesterday, but today. The thing about Mars went into Taurus and Venus went into Cancer. Now, I've noticed a huge shift in my energetics. I'm a little more calm, more down to earth. I am feeling my feelings, but I do need to process them. And so I catch myself wanting to distract every time a feeling comes up, but instead I remind myself, Venus is in Cancer. I need to talk to Holy Spirit about my emotions, because otherwise Venus, she comes through like my nose, where the left side of my nose will start to drip, and that means self-love, that pay attention, you need self-love, right? And so I'm like, oh, if my nose is about to drip on my left side, there must be something Venus wants to tell me. And so I open to receive a message from Venus through Holy Spirit. Okay, always Holy Spirit. You cannot talk to Venus without Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is your connector to all your energetics. If you are talking to your energetics without Holy Spirit, you could be talking to a glitch, okay, an energetic glitch. So keep that in mind. External spirits come through the mind. That's why when people say, if you're hearing voices, you're crazy. Well, it's one thing to just randomly hear voices in your head telling you, do it, okay? That's not Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit has to be called upon, okay? Even though Holy Spirit works for you, if you don't call upon Holy Spirit, He's pretty much just there saying, yoo-hoo, I'm here for you. Yoo-hoo, I'm here if you need me. But if you don't invoke Holy Spirit, all the other spirits in your head will be working. So this is why it's super duper important to note that your security comes from Holy Spirit. But if you don't invoke Holy Spirit, you don't every morning, every night before you go to bed, you don't say, Holy Spirit, guard and protect me. Okay, if you don't say that, help me go to sleep at night, Holy Spirit, keep me safe while I'm sleeping, go with me into my dreams. If you don't say that, you're going with your brain and whatever spirit is trapped in your body because of a trauma, okay? You haven't processed the feeling. It had invited a spirit in through knowledge, okay? So just keep that in mind. I just wanted to mention that's something the sun in Gemini is learning, especially through Uranus, and Uranus being in Gemini, it's going to be conjunct, so that's going to be huge. And then also Pluto in Aquarius. These are all air signs. They're definitely coming in to teach us. So let's go ahead and draw 5 cards, and I'm going to do the first card is going to be the center card. The second card is the fear card. The third card is the what do you call that? It's where you see something as gain, but it's really a harsh truth, okay? So like, even though you're gaining a lot of high fives, you're gaining a lot of recognition, it's not going to make you feel good, okay? You're not going to feel it internally. So the harsh truth is it's not really working, okay? Even though you got what you wanted, not working. So that's the third card. So now the fourth card we're going to draw is going to be the practical application, the responsibility to the goal to realign with Venus, the Venus value, and then to heal in the relationship. So this is going to be the relationship card. So now that I've got all 5 cards, I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to bring those 5 cards over here. Okay. And now mind you, you guys, I don't do reverses. So if something shows up in reverse, I don't do it. To me, this is shadow work. There is no reverse. Okay. There's a difference between tarot readings and the shadow work reading. Okay, so that right now I'm using this for shadow work. This is, it's not going to be the same as foretelling the future, which, by the way, I don't believe in. Just so you know, I don't believe that your tarot cards are going to tell your future. You are the creator of your own future. If you decide to use tarot as a tool to predict the future, what you're pretty much doing is invoking external spirit, and you're setting up your mindset to act it out. Okay, so like I said, I don't believe in foretelling the future. So now I'm bringing the cards over that I laid out. Okay, and these were the cards we picked. Okay, so what did the sun entering Gemini tomorrow want to reveal around a Venus value that may have been transformed, okay, that may have been pretty much sold out and changed, okay? So the Venus value, okay, this is the High Priestess, and we've gotten this card before, and remember, to me, the High Priestess is Persephone, because of the pomegranate, okay, around her neck, but also this snake represents the Garden of Eden, Eve in the Garden of Eden, turning to external knowledge, when God said, don't eat from the tree of, knowledge of good and evil, and she talked to the snake, Eve talked to the snake, and the snake convinced her that God is hiding something. Okay, but do you notice already how if you're believing that God is hiding something, it goes completely against the internal God. All of a sudden you think God is out there and he's saying, don't touch that tree. That's knowledge of good and evil, and don't touch it. But if you're believing that, well, God is out there, so Adam and Eve, they believed that God was out there. And that's why when the snake talked to Eve, okay, from the tree, the snake was saying, God's lying. God is internal. If you believe God is external already, that's wrong, in my humble opinion, because everything you do, Holy Spirit is there with you. Even if you don't invoke Holy Spirit to walk with you through your day, and you decide to meet up with someone who's a thief, and you meet up with someone who's a thief, and they say, hey, let's go to the store together, like me. Every time I would go to the store with this guy, he would steal a bar of soap. And I saw it, and I told him, no, you can't do that. And too late, he already puts it in his pocket. And so after that, the next day and the day after or the following week, if I ran into him and he's like, let's go to the store. As soon as we get to the soap aisle, I already knew he was going to steal one. I see him going to the soap. I walk away. But then he catches up with me and we end up going and hanging out. And during our hangout, he reaches into his pocket, takes out the soap and hands it to me. And I'm like, you stole that. I was like, I don't want your stolen stuff. But this is Holy Spirit, guys. Holy Spirit has already told me from day one, don't hang out with that guy. And I always override it. and I override it because I say, then I'm not going to have any friends. I'll be lonely. Okay, if I'm always judging everybody, everybody's bad. If I judge everybody and leave everybody because of what they do, then I'm going to be all alone. And that's where I have my issue, my value with Persephone. Persephone is the one that doesn't make choices for herself. What she'll do is, like me, overlook it because, well, I don't want to be without friends, but I just won't do it. But you can't have both worlds. You can't say, well, he's the thief. I had nothing to do with it. I'm innocent. But meanwhile, I'm hanging out with him. He's handing me the bar of soap. And I'm going, well, I didn't steal it. He did. But I'll just thank him for this gift. But reality is, I know he stole it. Yeah, the karma is on him, but it's also on me. Because the thing is Holy Spirit had already said, don't hang out with him. Okay? Because when he goes down, you're going to go down. Okay? And people who steal, you don't know what else they're going to do to you or from you. And reality was, he was stealing my energy. That was the thing, is the more I hung out with someone who didn't have the same values as me, my energy was being stolen. Even though I'm getting the stolen goods. But what am I going to do with soap? Use it for myself and external. Meanwhile, internally, I was drained. So during this sun entering Gemini, Venus wants everybody to recognize that if your Mars entered Taurus, if your Mars isn't listening to Holy Spirit, when Holy Spirit says, hey, don't go with that person because they're stealing, it goes against your Venus values. But yet you go against Holy Spirit and say, but I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to judge people. I won't do it. I'm clean. No, you're not. You're now Persephone. You're a part of both worlds. And you can't have that. This is why some people don't understand, like, why are bad things happening to good people. Because those good people are in between worlds. They know somebody is stealing, or they know somebody is beating their wife. Okay, they're abusive to their children. But yet they're still friends with them because, hey, man, I know him from school and he was my buddy. And if he's having fights with his wife, that's none of my business. But you know about it. Ask Holy Spirit what to do. And if Holy Spirit says cut off the friendship and report him, okay, if Holy Spirit says that, I don't know, I've never had that situation happen. But Holy Spirit will tell you what to do, whether it's to walk away, leave that friend, I don't know. But meanwhile, if you don't listen to Holy Spirit, you're choosing both worlds. And that's why bad things will happen to you, even though you're doing nothing but good. It's because of that one bad apple friend that you choose to keep. Because you don't want to judge. But meanwhile, what you're doing is you're harming your Venus values and you're going against Holy Spirit. Okay, so that's what that card is. And the fear around that is exactly the Fool. This is the Fool card. If you guys look at the Fool card, she's wearing red, survival mode. She's outside the house, meaning the house is in nature. Okay, the house is in nature. You're supposed to be in the house to feel at home in your body. But notice, she's outside the house. The door isn't even in the right place. Okay, she's in survival mode. So basically, by the time we get to the Fool, this is where when we were children and we felt at home in our body, something happened that took us away from our true Venus value. And we ended up in survival mode because we were dependent on external people. So when you're a child, being dependent on external people caused you to go against your own feeling at home in your body, your own Venus values, your own Holy Spirit. A lot of times you had to shut out Holy Spirit because Holy Spirit would say, don't do that. And when you said it, I'm not doing it, Mom. Mom would say, whap. Okay, yes, you will. You have to. I'm your superior. You need to obey. And so at that point, you were like, oh, Holy Spirit, you got me in trouble, and you stopped talking to him or her. But the key point was, no, we all start out as the fool, and that fear is what keeps us hanging on to those friends that we know don't match our values because we grew up with them. Oh, we've known them forever. They're our family. It's my cousin. My cousins are all gang members, but I'm still hanging with them because they're my cousin. But meanwhile, you hate prison. You've already been to prison. But yet, you don't want to let it go when Holy Spirit says, listen, you have a chance to turn over a new leaf. Leave them behind. No, I have an oath. We made an oath. We're together. But it's like, whoa. You know what I mean? You can't, you have to choose. And that's where Persephone comes in. Choose your Venus values, or don't make a choice at all and you're stuck with both worlds. Meaning, whatever is trapped in here, every time you see them do something wrong and you just say, I didn't see that. Yes, you did. Okay? And so, this is where in the Bible, don't be a false witness. That goes both ways. It's not just to saying, oh, he did it, and really you didn't see it. Like people who always say, stories about the Bible. You weren't there to see it. How can you say, I know because it's in the Bible? You weren't there though. So whatever's in the Bible, you don't know who wrote it. Maybe they mistyped it. Maybe the way somebody was speaking a language wasn't interpreted properly, because that's what I'm learning. I'm dating a guy who doesn't speak English, speaks Spanish, but even the translator doesn't translate it properly. And so we're constantly misunderstanding each other. The only way we're able to actually solve things is through telepathy, okay, which means using energetics to communicate, like true energetics. So you have to literally cry to show them that you're hurt. Okay, so this is where, a lot of people who bear false witness and say, well, because it's in the Bible. Well, you don't know. You really don't. Okay, and so now comes the harsh truth. Bingo. 7 of Swords. So look at this image. This is really interesting. This is a sly fox. Notice how he has an umbrella of stars. But there's no rain. There's the moon. And so the sly fox has all these chickens around him. Okay? And, he's blocking out the light of the moon, the true moon. And instead, the stars is over his head. Meaning, he's not processing feelings. What he's doing is he's using what he learned from external people, external sources, and he's turning to external spirit to feed him, to guide him, to nurture him. Because remember, a fox eats the hens eventually. Okay? And the thing is he's being a sly fox. So what this represents, guys, is that when you're not making decisions, okay, about your Venus values, and it's because the fear that keeps it going is that you never felt at home in your body. What ends up happening is you feel like you're a winner because you've got all the resources around you. You never have to feel your feelings. So instead, you just use all that knowledge to appear like that sly fox who knows everything. I'm so smart. I'm so innovative, right? But meanwhile, you're not connected, okay? And the next one is going to be the practical application. I call it the responsibility to seeing the truth of your goals and going back to your values. And so what showed up here is the 5 of Pentacles. Okay, but notice how he's out in the cold and he's growing old. He's freezing. Okay, he's in the woods, but he has no home. He's dying. And so the goal, you guys, if you're starting to age, okay, and no matter how much house, warmth, family you've got, you never feel warm. You're always cold-hearted, bitter, okay, no matter you have a legacy going. But remember, guys, external spirit needs to be fed. And so no matter what you gain, you always feel left out in the cold. You're aging. Okay, if you guys look at me, I'm 48. Okay, and I'm still riding my bicycle. Yesterday I went bike riding with the boyfriend, and he's actually younger than me. He's I think he's just turning 29. Maybe 28, I don't know. So he's just hitting his Saturn return. And what's interesting though is yesterday we went bike riding together and he could hardly keep up. And I was like, but that's because he's an alcoholic and I quit drinking. So I just quit drinking May 4th. I feel so much better after I quit drinking. I realized I was drinking because I was trying to cover up the misery that I was feeling from not being able to do what I really love doing, which is this, okay? And, you know, I love to help people with their shadows, to reveal shadows. I can find shadows in your chart, and it does help, but a reading, depending on what you want to know about, whether it's your own shadow for the day, whatever's coming up for that day, I do those too. I do mine before I do this, you know, for you guys. But yeah, so the practical application is to recognize where you're not feeling happy inside around your goals, no matter how much you achieve, no matter how sly of a fox you were and you got everything, you're still not feeling happy. And that's what I was going to say, that 29, 28-year-old, he drinks so much. Yesterday I was like, man, you smell like a barrel of liquor. And he was just miserable. He was just like a miserable kid. And I was like, you're 28. You should be so happy and joyful, and you've got all this money, you know? But he's miserable. And, you know, it's not my job to make him happy. But the key point was when we went bike riding, I was impressed that I was able to go so far. He was getting wore out. And, you know, I told him, I said, hey, we're going to go again on your next day off when you come to see me. So we're going to go bike riding again. I said, I'm going to get you into this, because I was like, he didn't have anybody to do it with, you know. So, but anyways, last card, the relationship that needs healing. There it is. Bingo, the sun. So the sun entering Gemini, guys. Notice how there's skulls down here. The skulls, the head, the brain. If the sun is always looking to the brain for answers, but never the moon, then he's pretty much dead. He's not happy. The light he's shining is not even his own. It's not making him happy. It's leaving him out in the cold. So the relationship that needs to be fixed is the sun, instead of hanging with Mercury, needs to go and touch base with the moon. Okay, right here. Notice how he didn't want to Doesn't want to have anything to do with the moon. The sun needs the moon in order to understand and shine a true light of Venus. The Venus value, okay, the life that Venus wants to create with you here on Earth. Venus is a feminine energy. The moon is a feminine energy. The sun is masculine. The sun without the moon will never be able to get to Venus. Okay, so if you guys, the shadow here is to go back to Venus through Holy Spirit, your moon. Go back to Holy Spirit. Let go of all the stars that you picked up when you didn't feel at home in your body. And you needed to learn. You needed to learn ways to survive. That's what the stars are, okay? So that's the shadow reveal for today, guys. I hope it helps. And, I'll see you next time, all right? Take it easy. Ciao.